Alright, YouTube, the legacy media has begun to die. People appear to have taken notice of the fact that a bunch of random YouTubers and bloggers were much better at analyzing and predicting what was happening in this election than people at Fox, CNN, MSNBC, the Young Turds, and some of these similar lamestream media broadcasts. By the way, the Young Turks are mainstream media at this point. They have been for some time. They're simply a partisan outlet that paints a rosier picture than reality for candidates that they like, for ideologies that they like. I'll point something out, for instance. I have a friend in real life who voted for Clinton. Wasn't like a hardcore Clinton fan, was actually a Sanders fan, but sort of settled for Hillary, I suppose, as opposed to Trump. And this individual swore up and down that Clinton was certain to win the election. And it didn't happen, obviously. The reason for that is, if somebody simply is a total partisan, and they surround themselves with people that are partisans, the sample that they see around them is extremely skewed when it comes to who is supported. Specifically, if you have 90% people who have always been Democrats in your inner circle that you talk to and actually notice on a regular basis, you probably thought that Hillary Clinton was a hell of a lot more popular than she actually was, especially if you weren't paying attention to any aspects of the media outside of that partisan core. Legacy media or alternative media, by the way. On the other side, you probably thought that Trump was going to absolutely hammer Hillary Clinton and start winning states like California or New York. There were people who thought this. If you surround yourself just with a bunch of Republican partisans and Trumpites and maybe the alt-right, you probably thought he was going to do better than the relatively balanced result that you saw. This was not a landslide election. It was obviously in Trump's favor. In the Electoral College, he did far better than in the popular vote, and he did win. But it was not a landslide. My estimate of the result was quite close to reality. Some of the other predictions that were made on both sides were very, very far off the mark, especially on the Clinton side. The reason, another reason at least, why my analysis was accurate is I don't simply surround myself with an echo chamber. For instance, I look at being liberal and Salon, and I talk about them. I laugh about them. I laughed about them for months because they acted like Hillary Clinton was a shoo-in. The reason why I was laughing, I could look at them and I could see the disgust that a lot of Democrats had with what the DNC had done. I did see lingering resentment from progressives, and I figured that that would affect the election. Even if I was only extrapolating the internet crowd to the entire voting base, and thus it was a much smaller effect, it did have an effect. That's another reason why she began losing the Rust Belt. It wasn't just a bunch of boomers. Salon today is saying, oh, the boomers screwed us all, they're trolling the millennials. I am a millennial, and I voted for Donald Trump. I'm not uneducated. I am white and male, but I'm not uneducated. I'm self-employed as an author and editor. I attended the University of Vermont. I'm doing just fine. I don't care about the race issue and similar issues. I'm in favor of gay marriage. I'm in favor of abortion rights. And yet I voted for Donald Trump. The reason why, they were missing several segments of the vote. They're pretending that these segments don't exist. The people who are simply tired of a lackluster economy, especially in the Rust Belt, which has been left behind by what recovery we did have. Obama's ignored this, Clinton's ignored this, because they don't want to admit that the problem exists. Number two, tech-literate individuals who specifically are more worried about warmongering than any other issue. I fall into this category. If it were just Clinton saying, well, I'm going to start a proxy war in Vietnam, we're going to invade there again, or something like that, while I would oppose it, I would have been less concerned than the specific fact that she was both antagonistic towards the Russians and thus incapable of conducting proper diplomacy if elected, number one. And number two, intent upon attacking several nations where they were already operating or were in the Russian sphere. That could start a nuclear war. That's the reason, primarily, that I voted against her. Above and beyond the emails, the FBI investigation, the fact that she apparently thinks that white males are scum of the earth, we're all deplorable, evil, racist Nazis. Okay, that's all forgivable, but starting a nuclear war, well, this kills everybody, so I'm not sure I can vote for you. Fucking retard. But, yeah, the legacy media is dying, though. You can see it right now. You saw on election night, even Fox News, they didn't understand what was going on. They were all pretending to be shocked. I wasn't shocked. Many of you probably weren't shocked, at least not to the level that Megyn Kelly or any of these, Karl Rove, Larry Sabato, these people had no idea what was going on when Pennsylvania turned red, no, when Florida remained red. They didn't understand because they're partisans, they're hacks. These pundits get paid a lot of money to essentially look at the polls and take a guess at what's happening. They don't get paid to actually interact with people. This is the prime advantage to the social media generation. I interact with people. I don't simply make content and get a paycheck and provide infotainment. I interact directly with people, however I can. You know, with this many subscribers, it's getting harder to answer all the messages. It gets harder to respond to every comment. I do apologize for that. I try to be as outgoing as possible. It does get a little bit difficult to do, though, because in between doing all of my other work, of course, there's not an infinite amount of time. There are more comments coming in on this channel now at any given time than I can reasonably answer in the same span of time, especially after I've just uploaded a video or two. When you got, 200-300 people commenting in the first 10 minutes, it can get a little bit difficult. But fundamentally, I'm still a dude with a webcam. I'm not sitting in a, $1 million office with a bunch of staff and computers and teleprompters around me. The legacy media does operate that way. It's not interactive, therefore not as fun. Because they don't interact with people outside of maybe Twitter once in a great while, when they're not just tweeting out, they actually retweet something or talk to somebody, respond to a message. They interact very, very little with people. So they don't have their finger on the pulse of the internet generation, certainly. They never had their finger on the pulse of anything else. All they did was analyze polls. Now that continued to work okay for them until the paradigm shift we've just seen. And I've made a slew of predictions on the Facebook page, which, by the way, I don't answer messages there generally speaking. I prefer them on YouTube. I don't like live messaging. There are too many people trying to message me about too many topics. I'd be on there for literally hours that I could be spending doing work that I need to get done. And I do mean need. But I've made a series of predictions about sort of the early era of Trump's presidency, and I think they'll probably all come true. I do expect him to target the ACA. Whether it's in the form of a drastic overhaul or an outright scrapping, it really makes no difference. Either one works. The former probably takes longer. You should just scrap it and then rebuild it with starting from the idea of increasing competition if you're going to have any sort of ACA-style health coverage at all, because that drives the price down. You don't have to worry about premium hikes and things of that nature. That's one big prediction. Another being the Supreme Court justice, the nature thereof, and the cabinet, which people are all speculating about. But it's funny, the people on the legacy media, they're still in shock. They don't even know what's going on. They're all in complete awe. I'm sitting here, making several videos here, analyzing what happened and saying, oh, no, I'm not surprised. It's all according to plan, essentially. All you had to do is think about it critically, but that's not what they're paid for. They're paid to lean one direction or the other and paint an overly optimistic view of one candidate over the other, to target one candidate over the other, generally speaking. And the big thing is, because of the nature of television and early internet coverage, maybe, these people are basically just talking head clickbait. That is, the TV doesn't function the same way as the internet, but that's really what these news broadcasts are about. They will take any minor issue, a crack in your driveway becomes evidence of a coming earthquake, essentially. That's how they get views. Unfortunately, over time, as less scrupulous networks realized how much more attention they could get by fear-mongering and clickbaiting, essentially, other more notable legacy media outlets that would have otherwise been, okay, they would have been mostly information, had to adopt the same model. It became little more than infotainment, 99% of which is just nothing but hyperbole and spin. That's why they're dying. That makes perfect sense, but the internet can do clickbait a lot better too, because it's something you can interact with, and you can make your own. You don't have to listen to their drivel, you can make your own drivel. And a lot of people find that very, very entertaining indeed. I like putting my views out on the internet. I like to think there's a lot less hyperbole and clickbait on this channel than many others. I would be willing to say Clinton would have possibly started a nuclear war. Was it certain? No. And I admitted that too. But I said, fundamentally, it's not a good idea to run a no-fly zone in Syria. And a lot of these people, including some of these networks that traditionally they'll hate the Democratic Party, again, you'd think of Fox or something, they weren't even willing to talk about the issue. They acted like it didn't exist. Oh, just say nothing about the no-fly zone. You see lots about it on the internet. You go on Fox, what were they talking about? Oh, emails. Emails over and over again. Nobody wanted to address the elephant in the room, which is, screwing with another nuclear state's not a great idea. Another reason why the legacy media is dying, but the death knell for them will be, for the first time, the majority of the population was not getting most of its information from the legacy media. They were getting it from the underground media, turning off media altogether, or they had become content creators primarily and were collaborating with others to release information. This will only get more monumental by the next election. It's not going to reverse. We're moving further and further into social media. You're also seeing for the first time, specifically international inclusions into the U.S. election system, and U.S. inclusions, by the way, into foreign elections. A lot of people that were supporting the Brexit weren't in the UK. They were right here in the United States. A significant proportion of people, especially younger individuals who probably would have voted against the Brexit, voted for it, specifically because people in other countries were delivering sound arguments about why they should vote in favor of a Brexit. A lot of people who voted Trump in part because of material that was being made by people who aren't even in the United States. Maybe some of them have never even been here. And this is going to continue. English is the lingua franca of the internet. People are taking that up. You got to realize there are parts of the world that are steadily urbanizing and developing. Parts of Eastern Europe are still growing as far as internet presence. Places in Africa, you'd think of Nigeria, Ghana, some of these other nations. Certainly Latin America, Southern Asia, India is becoming a bigger and bigger player. Turkey, some of it as development encroaches upon areas that essentially are still third world outside of, the western half of Turkey as it continues to march towards the eastern side of Turkey, let alone the places that are still like war-torn basically because of ISIS and the Kurds and stuff. They're joining the internet at higher levels. Russia even, increasingly, urbanization is taking hold as far as the internet goes. The spread of the internet is only half complete in this world. I hope people realize the internet's going to more than double in size over the coming decade easily. It's going to get faster, it's going to get larger, it's going to get more interconnected, there will be more and more content creators, other languages will begin to be more developed on the internet. Although English will still end up being the main language of most of what goes on here, that and Chinese, which is sort of intranet mode. China will continue to open up to the outside world, I think, too. Their censored intranet system eventually will be scrapped in favor of joining the World Wide Web at large. It's only a matter of time. North Korea will probably join the Chinese intranet at some point as well, assuming Kim Jong-un isn't a complete lunatic. This will drive electoral systems across the world into chaos. Parties that would never have had a chance will rise up in dominance. You'll have the dying off of older movements, neoliberals and neocons here. The far left in parts of Western Europe is beginning to lose favor, and I do mean far left. By American standards, most of the so-called centrists of Europe would be far left Democrats, if not Bernie Sanders socialists in this country. It's actually very funny. They're basically controlled by Marxists in many of these countries. Sweden is controlled by almost communists. Germany is under the control of somebody who's probably just shy of Joseph Stalin on economic issues. It's very, very funny to see these things happen. You're going to see worldwide influence into various political structures. The legacy media is not capable of delivering the sort of content, and the sort of accuracy, by the way, necessary to compete increasingly in this age. They are losing steam. These TV networks are trying to salvage their credibility by moving increasingly to the internet, to put streams there, to put videos there, to have Twitter accounts. It's not working particularly well. The fact is, again, a person with a webcam and a microphone and a laptop sitting in their bedroom is capable of potentially outcompeting some of the major celebrity and pundit figures within the legacy media. This does not bode well for them, because there are millions of us, there aren't millions of them. That's about all. Peace out.